She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties. Okay, so people are walking around with 3 kidneys.
Well, there's your answer, Florida.
You can't fix it every time, Mom. How come I know that and you don't?
You mean it's just not a button?
It is lazy writing.
I mean, if you and I aren't having a margarita and talking about casting, it's not happening. I wish a life of sadness on her.
That was such a smart and unexpected ending.
Woo-wee, girl. What a week.
Yeah?
Well, it was my birthday.
Yay! Happy birthday to Molly.
But Matt's been working and Sister's been working and my ADHD's been flaring. So you know what that means? Nothing's gotten done.
Yeah, well, that sounds about right.
Nothing's gotten done. And then 2 days ago, my back flared up. So everything's just gone to shit. So we're sitting here recording while I'm stimming and Matt's drugged me to high heavens. But it's real life, man. So But
I like Molly on drugs. She's fun. This week has been bananas for me too, because Wednesday, which was your birthday, was my test. My final 2 tests. It was 5 hours.
No, that shit.
No, 5 hours. Miserable. No, I do not have my scores yet. I will get them back in 2 weeks. So I guess.
Well, how rude of them. I need to know now. Do they not understand one of your nearest and dearest is ADHD and she needs instant gratification?
Do they not understand that my contract depends on me passing these exams? But no,
contract. I'm talking about me right now.
It's because a portion of it is writing and somebody has to hand score that. But I did get my results in my first exam and I passed by leaps and bounds.
Because I told you so. That's why.
I actually did better than I did when I took the test as an undergrad when I was learning those things. So apparently I did learn more in my adult life, which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But whatever.
So this week is my book.
My Sister's Keeper.
Okay. It's not focusing. There we go. Boom.
Oh, we have 2 different versions. That's cool.
Mine's a newer version. But it's just I don't know. Anyways.
Well, I couldn't find my copy, so shout out to the woman who let me have this off of the Buy Nothing site in my area, because word.
Nice. So, you actually brought us a special guest for this episode.
Yay!
So, besties, we are bringing in one of April's nearest and dearest, Katie Alexander, who is a nurse. She's got a resume that's spectacular, and I can't say half these words because y'all know me. But
because words are hard. But Katie's a nurse. Katie's a nurse practitioner, and she has been. We've been friends since middle school. I mean, I've known Katie since she moved to Ohio when we were in 8th grade. So totally different. I believe our very first conversation included her saying, "Hey, aren't you the girl that made fun of cheerleaders at the football game?" And I was like, "Probably, probably."
I'm a cheerleader. I was the cheerleader.
Oh, Molly. Molly.
Without further ado, besties, meet Katie Alexander.
Katie!
Oh, Katie, thank you so much for joining us. You're going to bring an expertise into this that I don't think April nor I have.
Look, I can't even pronounce half of the medical words in here.
Word.
Even trying to use etymology and break it down with English teacher style, I was like, what the hell am I reading? So
when we were working this out and talking to Katie, I told her, I was like, I'm a professional sick person. I am a professional patient and I can't say this crap. So we need you, girl.
I'm super glad to be here. Yeah.
So why don't you just give us the highlights of your resume, because it's spectacular, girl. It is just impressive.
I've been a nurse since 2002. I was a critical care nurse for the vast majority of that, so ICU and ER. I became a nurse. Became a nurse practitioner in 2014. My first 2 years, I just kind of floated around. I did trauma, cardiology, and then internal medicine. And then about 5 years ago, started working at the James at Ohio State University, which is their cancer hospital, in the surgical ICU there.
Damn, girl. Damn. Yeah.
The Ohio State University. And then about 2 years ago, I transitioned to what's called to community oncology, which is working out of a research facility. So not in a hospital. I work in a 12 physician practice. There's 12 physicians, 4 nurse practitioners. I'm one of 4. But we see all types of cancers. So blood cancers, solid organ cancers, and all hematology patients too. So,
damn, girl. Damn.
Do you feel like that like research has like been the most interesting in your nurse journey, or?
No. So my time at the James was not good. That was the sickest patients I've ever cared for in the highest intensity. And burnout is real. So
I don't doubt it. I mean,
that was when I burned out. So that was a pretty tough pill to swallow, is like actually acknowledging that you're burnt out. And then
you're trying to figure out something that doesn't have an answer. It's trying to do math with algebra and the alphabet. And it's just, sometimes the answer's not there. And that's, I don't have the heart for that. So thank you. Because not all of us can do that shit.
And I feel like I've had a nurse practitioner as my primary care, and that was my preference because I feel like nurses approach things differently. Like, number one, y'all have a much better bedside manner because you come from the people that are doing the dirty work. Like, you are the people that are on the front lines. And I feel like I enjoy that more. I mean, I like my doctor right now. She's pretty great and she's pretty knowledgeable. But in the past, my preference has always been to see a nurse practitioner. And now that I'm not having babies anymore, my gynecologist for sure a nurse practitioner, because I'm like, I don't need no OB down there. Like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
There's no more babies.
No more word.
No more babies.
Say it again for the people in the back. No more babies.
Okay.
Okay, so synopsis of the book. We are covering My Sister's Keeper. And let's just say this to get it over with. There's going to be spoilers. This book came out a gazillion years ago. If you haven't read it, go read it and come back. I'm not going to do spoiler alerts this whole damn book.
This book was published in 2004, and a movie was made of it. And I just feel like
don't even get me on the start of the freaking movie book combo.
Are we going to start having a counter for your complaints?
Please! Oh my god! If there is an episode to have Molly complaints counter, boom! It is this episode. Holy Moses! I am frustrated.
I think across the board, all 3 of us are going to have a lot of those complaint counters because I know Katie's bothered by some of the medical stuff in there. But what I want to say is, like, this one, we have to have spoilers because things happen in this book at the end. Like, I'm sorry if you didn't read it. Do it. Jodi Picoult's brilliant. She's a
love her work. We will be covering her again because I love her writing.
Right, 100%. But we've got to be spoilery on this one. So go ahead and do the synopsis.
And as always, Dylan, if I miss it. So My Sister's Keeper is by Jodi Picoult, like April said. We follow Anna, who is a teen girl.
13.
Yeah, that's the one, see? And she goes to a lawyer to legally emancipate herself so that she no longer has to be spare parts for her big sister.
She's actually just asking for medical emancipation. So not from like moving out of her parents and being financially responsible. She just wants medical emancipation.
Yeah, medical emancipation, which is, when this was written, was really rare. So that's it. I mean, she doesn't want to be a donor anymore and can't blame the kid, right? So, my first question.
Can I just interject one thing?
Of course.
One more introduction for the synopsis. So the other really important thing about this is that Anna is a quote-unquote designer baby. So in 2004, this was a new thing. Like, this was new. I mean, Katie, am I right on that? Like, people weren't really doing this in the early 2000s.
Yeah, the technology was pretty young.
My cousin was born in the 90s, and she was a designer baby. Oh. She was born to she was born in, I'm doing the math, standby, 92, 94.
Okay,
to see her brother.
So as controversial as that was in the early 2000s, I can imagine for your family that was like really controversial.
Oh, but, it was a thing. It was a really huge thing.
But in the early 2000s, we didn't have a lot of this whole designer baby,
right.
and it wasn't. Anna was not. She was not created to like have a certain eye color or whatever desirable trait, other than to be a perfect genetic match, so she could be a donor for her sister.
Right.
And that was only supposed to be to give the cord. To give
right.
What is the cord?
The
cord blood.
Cord blood. Thank you. Words. Gosh.
See, you're already helping out, girl. Look at you.
Wow.
So we're gonna start off. First thing we learn right off is there are each chapter is a different narrator. Mm-hmm. Okay? And we're switching from narrators this whole book. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is important for the progress of the story?
Do you want to go first, Katie, or you want me to?
I can. I liked it. I wish that they would have included Kate's voice in it, though, in the story. We see so much of what's going on to everybody but Kate, and she is such an integral part of this whole story. Mm-hmm. Why Anna does all she does for the good and the bad is for Kate. And when you don't hear her voice, but I did like it. I did like I liked seeing the son, Jesse. I loved seeing the dad, because so many stories with young girls, you don't have a strong male figure in there. So to have the dad's voice I really liked having the dad in it. So
I think, like, I've read, this is one of 3 Jodi Picoult books I've read, and she is the master of weaving voices together to create this story. Every single one of them I've read. I think we've talked about this before, Molly. We talked about this in Fangirl, the untrustworthy narrator.
Trustworthy narrator.
Yeah.
Actually have a comment about that the next one.
This one has very great example of that. Anna is not a trustworthy narrator. Nope. So I think they do a really great job of like weaving these stories together. And I totally agree with you. The dad point of view is wonderful. I did not like Jessie's point of view. I feel like she did not do a good job writing a teen boy. And maybe that's because I'm one of 4 and I'm the only girl and I have boys. And so like, I feel like I maybe know boys' brain. That's a scary thought. But I didn't like Jesse's point of view. I understand why it was included. Like, I feel like he was broken in a way that I imagine you would be in his experience. But I just didn't like I didn't like the voice, the way she wrote it.
So I'm going to actually defend the author's choice not to include Katie till the end.
Yes.
Okay, so I do this all the time as an author. I know it sounds ridiculous when I don't have a published book. Anyway, as a writer, we make selective choices. I think writing Katie last was important. Mm-hmm. I think showing how she looks back on this, showing how Katie interprets this whole thing after post-mortem, I think was important for the storyline. And I also feel like talking about Katie as if she's not there, as a sick person, is like the popular girl constantly being talked about at school. We all think we know what's going on. We all have an opinion, but we don't really know what's going on. And I think that was the author's whole purpose was to make you be like, but what does Katie think? What does Katie think? You're always going to be wondering about her POV. Does that make sense?
I think the reason she was left out was because this was the one time that the story wasn't about her.
Right. Right. And it's true. It wasn't. I mean, it was about Anna, which actually,
which I think
go ahead,
her lawyer does a really good job of that during the trial, where he keeps saying, no, we already know Kate's history. I'm talking about Anna's history.
Right. Because we're always talking about Kate, right?
Right. But I feel like, I can see that, like, by the way, Mean Girls Gotta bring it in, because all I could think of when you talked about the popular girl is like her hair is full of secrets, and I was like, oh, that's a really awful thing to say about Kate.
Shiny.
She doesn't have
She
hair.
doesn't have hair.
Morbid but hilarious.
Yeah, this episode is probably going to be one of our least funny.
As a chaotic neutral, I'm finding it hilarious. So,
oh my gosh.
So question number 2, you actually just brought it up. Anna is our main character and our main narrator. She is 13 and a teenager, and they can have a range of emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does this make her a untrusting narrator? She tells us the very first chapter not to trust the things she says.
Yeah, I forgot she said that.
So,
I mean, she's 13. Katie, you have a 13-year-old, right?
Yeah.
You can't
them
trust
kids.
him.
Fuck them kids.
My kid's the exception, though. Like, my 13-year-old is a rock and has been a rock since she came out of the womb. She has a very, very old soul.
You have to say that because she listens to the podcast, too.
But, I mean, it's the truth. Like,
Fuck
she's
them kids.
she's gonna be the one that's going to have, like, all of it on lockdown when I'm senile. Like, she's going to be like, we got this. It's fine. So, she is very reliable and steadfast too. Yeah. So to see a 13-year-old who is not, that's a different perspective than the 13-year-old that I see in my house. So
yeah, well, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I can trust my oldest. I know he's 8, but he doesn't understand lying. So there's one of the benefits to autism. He doesn't get it. So
no sarcasm either.
Truth for days.
Piper, my Piper, she's 12. I get this untrusting narrator thing, but only because of who she is as a human, right? Everything is very literal for Piper.
Yeah.
But she runs her life with her emotions. That is how she runs her life.
Well, yeah.
Because she's a tween, and the hormones are here, then they're here, then they're here, then they're here. She is Anna in some senses, because she will be an untrusting narrator. She's not going to always tell the truth. Let's not lie.
Well, there's a book. I cannot remember the exact title of this book, but it's like, of course your teenager's crazy or something like that. Like, I'm not kidding. It's something around those lines. But basically, they studied the brain scans of, like, teenagers and the brain scans of schizophrenic adults. Yeah. And, like, they were the same. Like, they are the same. Their brains are, like, so miswired and just all over the place. And so, like, yeah, teenagers are bananas. And as a teacher of teenagers, I can say they are bananas. But I think Anna isn't being trustworthy because she's keeping a secret for her sister. Right. And her relationship with Kate is the strongest bond in this relationship, or in this book. It's not the mother and daughter. I don't care what anybody says. It's Kate and Anna, 100%. And this is interesting. I'm sorry to get off of your questions, Molly, but I actually have a question. So this was the second time that you and I had read this book, but it was the first time that Katie had read this book. So I feel like when I was taking notes on it, I was like, oh yeah, but I know that this is going to happen later. So Katie, how was it reading it for the first time? Like,
good question.
Going back,
the writing is so good. Like, she does a great job. A lot of conflict that I had from this was my healthcare background. Just because we can doesn't mean that we should. Like, I just kept hearing that in my head, and then thinking of those things and knowing not just what Kate went through, but what Anna went through, like knowing what these procedures entails, I was mad a lot of the book. And then,
I mean, understandably so.
Yeah. And then to be a mother of daughters and to look at both of my daughters and think, what would I do? I don't think I would have made these choices, like, at all.
See, the first time I read this book, I wasn't a parent. The second time reading this as a parent, I have notes about it. But let me tell you what, this mother is my mortal enemy now. I know it's a fictional character, but her and I, if I ever see her in the streets, if I ever see this woman in the streets,
we're
going to have words.
So I I feel like I have more sympathy for her now that I am
because
a
you're a
mother.
better human being than me.
It's the lawful good in me, but I feel like I have more.
Discovery. We talked about this in Discovery. There's a reason you and I have bonded for so long. It's because you balance me out. Somebody has to hold me back, or I will swing.
It's because, as we talked about in our first episode, we're long lost cousins, and then 2 episodes ago, you did ask me to be your lesbian lover. So,
Katie hasn't even seen the episode yet. This is so amazing. You haven't listened to Discovery yet. This is going to be so fun for you.
So I have a little bit more sympathy for her now that I am a mom. And after I finished the first chapter where Sarah speaks, that's the mom, and she's talking about Kate's diagnosis, and that scene ends with her and Brian in bed together, and she says, "I'm not going to let her die." I'm already crying. I get up, I walk into the next room where my husband was actually editing our podcast, and I was like, how am I going to get through this episode? I'm already crying. And like, I feel like I have more sympathy for her now because, like, I cannot, Lord, never imagine having to deal with that.
No.
But I
cannot imagine being in her shoes.
But I also look at Sam, and I'm like, he would do anything for James, like literally do anything for James, but I wouldn't ask him to do them.
But you would never force him to do that. And that is the difference between you and Sarah. Yeah. Sarah is literally saying, she doesn't even ask this child. She just says, do you want to help your sister? And never fucking explains it.
Right.
Yeah. The audacity of that woman, assuming what that child wants and needs. The audacity.
I, made a point. Here, let me see if I can find it. I folded the corner down.
Don't do that. No.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry.
I know.
The librarian wants to cry a little.
They're crying. What are you doing with your life?
They're Kate and Sarah and Anna are all in the hospital, and Dr. Chance comes in and talks. It's when they first talk about the organ donation, and they're trying, and they're doing a word search or a crossword puzzle, and they're trying to figure out four-letter word for vessel.
Yes.
And she says, "Anna." I murmur. My mother turns away. A four-letter word for a vessel, I say, and I walk out of Kate's room. I I was like, that's when I was texting you guys. Girl. I'm putting it down. Like, that's what you see that child is.
I need a second.
Yeah, I was pissed. I was like, that's what you see that child is a vessel. Yep. That you just keep pulling and pulling and pulling from. That's all she is to you. She's not, the line that she gives her in the beginning that we loved you so much more, I'm going to call bullshit because you took her cord blood. And when
I want to jump into this later because I have a whole note about what happens after she has the baby.
Yes.
So, I want to talk about it. I actually have a note about it.
But on what Katie was saying there, like, when she's in the nail salon or hair salon or whatever with 2 other pregnant women,
damn name.
She didn't even have a name for her because she literally says, I have only thought of this baby in terms of what she could do for Kate.
Because she was a fucking donor. In that woman's mind, that child was a donor. She was not emotionally attached to her. I don't think she was ever emotionally attached to Anna.
But
ever.
Conversely, I don't think Brian saw her that way.
No. Because Brian's a decent human being.
No, because he names her Andromeda. And if you know, Greek mythology and who Andromeda is, she's this warrior. She's the savior. But Andromeda was so strong, and that's why he gave her that name. Sarah could give 2 shits about what her name was. She just wanted her to pull from to save Kate. But Brian was way more invested in it.
So, I think there's something to be said about cord blood donation. Like, I know when we were having James, they asked us if we wanted to freeze the cord, or is that what it is? They freeze the whole cord, or they freeze the blood? I don't know.
They do the blood out and freeze it. Okay. Yeah.
So that's a thing, and there is a cord blood bank donation,
which we did with both girls,
which is really cool. But if that didn't work, I wouldn't want to give up on my child who is still sick. But I also would not want to have nurses hold my 5-year-old down and forcibly remove.
First and foremost, not telling her what's going on. Not telling her what's going on. Okay, kids are very literal at a very young age, and if I'm gonna pull from Grey's, okay?
Oh gosh, Katie's gonna hate this.
Okay, no. I'm gonna use George O'Malley as an example. I'm not gonna use like actual metaphorical things. There is an episode of Grey's where George O'Malley, they have this kid that has a heart problem, and the parents can't keep this kid in the hospital bed. And he goes and pulls a fire alarm, and O'Malley's the only person that can talk to this kid. And he's like, the kid was a plane guy, right? He goes, he just needs to see how things work, right? And let's not lie, that's kids. If you are honest and direct with them and tell the truth, they're going to be more on board, and they're not going to fight you.
Instead, what she did was say, you're going to help your sister.
Yep. Right. It's a half-truth. It's a motherfucking half-truth.
It's a guilt trip.
Word.
And what sibling wouldn't want to help their sibling? I mean, I would help any of my brothers, but when I'm 5, well, I'm the oldest, so I wouldn't be helping an older sibling. But when I'm 5, like, I want to know what's happening.
Maybe you have one floating around like I did.
Oh, jeez. Molly, we're going to have to start another podcast that's like childhood trauma with Molly and April.
Anyway, all I'm saying is what we're trying to say here is the more honest you are with children, the easier they're going to be able to handle. Yeah. So all of this actually is perfect lead-in to my next point I made. Anna straight up says, we set a place at the dinner table for death. And it's just like, that hits home, right? Like, she is literally setting the pace for this book. She is telling you exactly what to expect in the first chapter, right? And I thought that was pertinent. How do you guys feel about that? Like, it's kind of morbid for a 13-year-old, right? To say something like that.
I mean, she's had a morbid life.
Word.
Yeah.
Her sister's dying.
I think when you think about like what her paradigm is that's all she's ever known.
Oh, that's sickness. A good word, paradigm. Right.
One of my very close friends, and a lot of the reason why I work in oncology, actually found her cancer when she was breastfeeding her son. So his entire life, that's all he's known is his mom on chemo, his mom sick. So that's just his lens. That's just what he sees. And that's Anna's lens. She, when you hear all these statistics about APL and curates and all, that was just normal conversation in their household. So that's just all she saw. And you do set a table, a place at the table for death because you know it's going to come. So,
as a professional sick person, my illness has become a very big part of my children's lives. And I don't do it on purpose. I don't try to make it a part of their lives. It hurts my heart when I have to have my 12-year-old help me off the couch because my back won't move because it's completely locked up. When my 10-year-old has to help make dinner because I can't bend that day.
Yeah.
Being the person that makes everybody's life change because of one thing you can't even control is devastating. I feel like April, you can speak to this. You know me pretty well. I feel like I handle it well. I feel like I put on a good front when it comes to my illness. I don't make it my whole life, but I feel like at times it controls everything, even if I don't want it to. Even when I'm like, I'm good, look at me, I'm happy, right? So it's just, I lost my point, I think. But the point I'm making is just, there is no, like, setting the dinner table for death. There is no way around it, right?
Yeah. It's a great metaphor. It's a great metaphor.
There's no way around it sometimes.
And I think Campbell mentions Anna's attorney, Campbell, mentions that when he first meets her, well, first of all, when she's suing for emancipation of her body, he thinks that she wants to have an abortion.
Right.
Or
get birth control or...
Right. So, but when she starts rattling off the statistics of like how many times she's had procedures done, he acknowledges that she's more knowledgeable than some of the experts.
Medical experts he has.
Right. So for her to say that they set a place at the dinner table for death. It's a great metaphor. That whole Anna is a vessel, great metaphor. I think that she's obviously had to grow up faster and sooner because of what she's experienced with her sister. It also, her sister's older than her. We know that, but her sister is not just a couple years older than her. She's 16 and Anna's 13. So we've got 3 years, but those 3 years are astronomical. A 16-year-old and a 13-year-old are really not that similar. And add to it the fact that Kate has been sick since she was 2. And like, that's 14 years of sickness.
And Kate's been sheltered, right? Anna is her only person, right? I mean, she's got Jesse, she's got her parents, but Kate's her person, and Anna's her person. So, of course, Anna's going to mature. She's out in the world. She's doing the things. She's got hockey. She's got school. While Kate has only Anna.
Well, and I feel like Anna has the opposite issue that Jesse has. So Anna doesn't tell, you brought up hockey. She doesn't tell her parents that she's playing hockey because that's why burden them with this other thing. She doesn't even want to tell them that she needs equipment. Where on the opposite side, where Kate keeps everything in, or Anna keeps everything inside in order to not bother them, Jesse acts out because he just wants them to notice him. Please acknowledge that I exist because I wasn't good enough to be the donor for my sister.
Let's not lie, though. Part of the reason Anna hides this is if they heard she was doing a contact sport, they would have ripped that kid out of that. Heaven forbid that little donor baby fuck her up her freaking arm.
Well, I can't remember if this is from the movie or the book, but Katie, can you confirm that if someone is a kidney donor, would she even be able to play sports like that moving forward?
Can't. Nope. Yeah, if there's a potential because your kidneys aren't really protected. So if you take a puck to the kidney and jack up your kidney, you can't give it to your sister. So
yeah.
She wouldn't be able to drink?
But would she be able to play like after, or would you be worried that if you get hurt again, she wouldn't have a kidney at all?
She'd be fragile the rest of her life, right? No drinking, no, like, and if she had kidney failure, she was, like, some even kidney donors have to go on special diets, right?
Yeah, so they have to basically act a lot like a dialysis patient afterward just to protect that one kidney. The one kidney will compensate to a point. But it's just like anything that if you're used to running on 2 and then you take away one, the other one's going to work harder to a point.
That's not traumatic at all for a 13-year-old.
Right. And Sarah makes it sound like this isn't that big of a deal. She makes the comment about how people give their kidney to strangers all the time.
It's like when you donate blood to your sister.
No, it's not the same at all.
Sorry.
It's major surgery, and I could be wrong because this is Grey's Anatomy speaking, not medical. So
we already talked about this. Grey's makes the surgeons,
right? Chief of medicine. So, isn't it harder on the body of the person giving the kidney than the actual surgery? Like they have to tear them open, basically, right?
Yes. Well, anymore they can do a lot of it robotics with only about a 3 to 4 inch incision. But previously, and in the time of this book, it would have been major surgery. So major, and on a child too. So, pediatric
a growing body nonetheless.
A growing body, no less. Yeah, that's what you have to factor into all of this. Is 13 is the height of puberty for females. So lots of physical development, lots of bone development, lots of things that you need optimal health for. Right. And if you're taking out a pretty important organ, it changes things.
So let me ask this. Oh, sorry. Let me ask this. Could, in this situation, if Anna had donated, being she was still growing and maturing, could her body, have major issues because of puberty and, not having that second kidney?
Yeah, you can run into, malnutritional states, worsening of underlying issues that hadn't been presented because she was a fully functional. Yeah, so, it could exacerbate everything. You don't know. And the hormonal shift, it doesn't say in here if Anna has her period or whatever, but that changes a lot of things.
It does mention she asked her dad about keeping tampons.
Oh, yeah, she does. She puts tampons at the firehouse. That's right. Yeah. So, yeah. Which that's a whole nother story, but
which I know you have a lot of feelings about too, because
we're gonna get to it. We promise.
Because your husband is
a firefighter. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. do it. And anytime you anesthetize anybody, child, adult, geriatrics, whatever, anytime someone's under anesthesia, it can cause issues. So this child's already been under anesthesia for these bone marrow donations. Like, how many times are you going to anesthetize this child?
Mm-hmm.
That adds up. You get cumulative effects. So
now, question that is kind of related to this, but just out of curiosity, Kate mentions that like they don't take out the other kidney. Do they really leave both kidneys? So she would have 3 kidneys.
Yeah, it's just easier just to kind of reroute the blood flow than to take it out and do it. Yeah, so it's pretty cool when you see like
screw you, Anna. Your sister gets 3, you get 1.
Yeah, there are people walking around with 3 kidneys.
Yeah,
but like none of them work, right? Like only one of them works out of the 3.
2 of them maybe really works. Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see on CT scans. You're like, what is that? Oh, that's another kidney? Yeah.
A smudge on the x-ray?
Is that the only organ donation that they do that with?
Yeah. So like pancreatic, they can just replace it. Lungs come in.
I think we need to give April a minute.
Yeah.
I can't.
While April takes a minute, I'm going to jump into the next question.
There's a reason I'm not in medicine. This is not okay with me. I can't. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I'm going to jump into Campbell now. When we meet Campbell, he is constantly, throughout this book, telling everyone different reasons he has Judge. Now, we eventually learn why he has Judge.
His dog.
His dog. I'm sorry. Yes. He has a service dog. The dog's name is Judge. We eventually learn why he has Judge. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there is a sense of shame with having Judge and the reason he lies about it?
I think that he thinks there's a sense of shame. But also, it's nobody's damn business why he has a service dog. But also, this book was written in 2004, where I think most people that were using service dogs were people that were visually impaired. Right. Whereas now, I mean, I have a very good friend. He's actually one of Tom's best friends, so I guess he's my very good friend by proxy. But he has a service dog because he has PTSD. He has one of the canines for warriors. Is that what it is? Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
And
for warriors or whatever they call the
I think it's canines for warriors. So I'm familiar with somebody that has a service dog for something that isn't visual impairment. And I think that's definitely more common today, but it's nobody's damn business why he has a service dog.
I think my favorite line Campbell gives is when they go, "You don't look blind." "Oh no, he's blind." Like Campbell's like explaining the dog is blind. That's the reason he has.
Molly, we made it 8 episodes without getting you to snort. Damn it.
I mean, we made it pretty far without me making Firefly references, so of course you gotta snort.
Gosh.
What do you think, Katie? What do you think about Campbell and his whole situation?
So I think, and I can't remember who said it about he's not in control in his body when that happens. So this is his ability to control, and like April said,
control the situation. That makes sense.
But yeah, he's attorneys. The most that I've interacted with are pretty type A personalities, like things done a certain way, like to be in control. So to have this physical illness that you can't control. Even with anti-epileptics, you can still seize, and so knowing that could come at any time, like that would just jack you up. And if you were such a control freak, yeah.
So my mom actually has a seizure disorder, and Lord, I don't have any idea what it's called that she has because she's not epileptic. Her seizures are something else, but they intensified after she had a car accident that resulted in a TBI. So what happened to Campbell is that he was in a car accident and basically has a traumatic brain injury that has caused seizures, which my mom already had seizures. She had a seizure while driving, which caused her accident. So now she has worse seizures. But like the way that they describe his seizure, like when because he obviously has this massive seizure in the courtroom, which he didn't want anyone to know that he would lose control of his body like that, because you're right, Katie, that doesn't look good for a lawyer. Like, you have to be on all the time. But they talk about he needs a change of clothes, and I'm like, yeah, that's very familiar with that. Not remembering what happened, very familiar with that. Did not like how they handled the seizing scene, because that's not how you do first aid. And for our listeners, I literally texted Katie and Molly, and I'm like, are you supposed to give somebody something to bite down on? Because I thought that's not what you did.
As like a former military member, I was like, that's not what I was taught.
No, you keep the airway clear. Yeah. When they vomit, they don't puke and suck it into their lungs. Yeah.
Yes. Turn them on their side, clear the space so they don't hurt themselves while they're seizing, and let them seize.
Yeah. Oh, that, I think that, honest. Okay, so sidetrack story, fun times with Molly always. So I think this is where my ADHD and anxiety come together. In elementary school, I was put next to a girl who had a seizure disorder. ADHD girl. I was literally told just to put something under her head and put her on her side. I had ADHD. Every time this girl flinched, I would jump up. Every time. And I got in so much trouble for the first quarter of that school year because I was so hyper aware of what was going on. I was paying attention to class. You told an ADHD kid to watch this girl. So of course my grades are falling. Like,
I can't believe they asked a student to do that.
They asked us all to. Like, we were in desk rows, and everybody that was in the it got so bad for her. I remember that they ended up having to pull her out of school, and she ended up having a surgery around our 9th grade year, and she's still alive today, but I don't think her quality of life is amazing because of it. It just keeps getting worse and worse, which really hurts my heart.
You know what she needs?
Grey's Anatomy. No. Derek Shepherd.
She needs cannabis.
Yes.
I know that Katie is a big supporter of that, and I'm a big supporter of that as well. Yes, it will help with seizures.
Yep.
And also anxiety. I feel like maybe I should consider it for my anxiety, but that's a whole other story.
And inflammation. But I'm in Texas, so I get to keep being forced narcotics.
It's legal in Virginia now.
So, moving on to our next topic. I actually watched a video with, I'm going to frickin' say her name wrong, Jodi Picoult. Is that how you say Picoult?
It's Picoult.
Picoult.
You don't pronounce the T.
It's French.
I don't know French. I just have heard interviews with her. So,
anyways, Jodi Picoult, I watched an interview with her, and the interview says, I write about things that keep me up at night.
Mm-hmm.
So this actually leads into my next one. This book covers several big topics: designer babies, emancipation, healthcare system, and cancer. Do you think this was an easy task for her to take on and mesh together in one book? And after that interview and her quote saying that she writes about things that keep her up at night, what is y'all's opinion?
Okay, I want to go first because I feel like Katie has a lot of feelings about this because of the medical side of things, but I want to compare this quickly to John Green taking on cancer with teenagers in The Fault in Our Stars, which, as I've said before, John Green is my favorite author. I love him very much. Maybe someday he'll listen to this podcast and we'll be friends. That's the dream. But when he wrote The Fault in Our Stars, he had a friend, Esther. Actually, this week that we're filming this was Esther Day, which is a big day in Nerdfighteria because they celebrate Esther, who died of lung cancer. And what he wrote, he took plenty of liberties with. Obviously, he looked at the medical side of things in terms of, he actually has a friend who's a doctor, and he talked to Esther's family and Esther. But he took liberties because he wrote the things that he wanted to say. I think Jodi Picoult wrote things that she thought was medically accurate, but are not medically accurate.
That's why your face says it all, hon. It says it all. Your turn, babe. Your turn.
It's not like horribly inaccurate, but it's just very like one-sided. Like you don't see all that happens to Anna, which is a huge component of that. Like, you know, they was one of Sarah's chapters, she talks about giving them growth stimulation shots. That hurts like hell. That makes patients' bones ache. Like, we don't, you know, none of that's talked about. You know, the chemo regimen that she talks about, ATRA we've used for a long time. Arsenic therapy we've used for a long time. These were not new and novel therapies in 2004.
So she could have just Googled it, is what you're saying, and just put what she Googled into the book?
Yeah. And like...
And Google wasn't even that good in 2004. Does it even exist? Hang on. Keep going. I'm going to Google.
Google came out in 1998.
But it's,
I know this because I used it the other day to blow the girls' minds that I told them I was older than Google. So as an author that over-researches, as somebody that, as a writer, likes to have all the information, to the point where I go down a rabbit hole, I find this frustrating. As somebody in the field, does it get under your skin when people get the information wrong, and it's sometimes simple things?
Yeah.
You don't even watch medical shows.
Yeah, no, I can't. I can't anymore because
that's okay. We'll watch it for you, babe.
Television and drama, and then there's like actual life. Like,
right.
You know, things happen, but there's just some things that just don't happen, and it's fiction, and I get it, and I try to be like, okay, it's a book, but at the same time, I'm like, that's so wrong. Like, never in the history of ever would a child be allowed to go on an EMS run. Like,
right. No, never.
Like, absolutely not.
Is that your biggest pet peeve of the book? The EMS run?
No, I mean, it's up there. It's like top 3. Yeah. Like, no. Yeah.
I do that with military shows. That Last Ship. Do you guys remember Last Ship? Matt and I watched half an episode, and he turned it off, and he goes, nope. And I was like, we couldn't sit through it as two prior service members. It's like, it is so inaccurate that the guy that likes explosions won't even watch the explosion show. Like,
teacher shows are usually, I think Boston Public is like the most on point with all the teacher shows that I, in my career experience. But I don't know why every freaking teacher show needs to have a teacher sleeping with a student. Like, that doesn't happen as often as...
Right.
Okay, I'm not going to say it doesn't ever happen, because I definitely worked at a school that 3 people in the same year got fired for it. But it doesn't happen as often as shows portray.
We need to circle back. Was this in the news? Did we, like...
No, it didn't make the news, but I taught in Hillsborough County, which is Tampa area, Florida, and yes...
That's your answer, Florida.
Yes, that
Florida
district...
man.
Florida man. That district
Florida
has
man.
made the news for that before, but that year, I don't know how it didn't, but yes, 3 in 1 year. 3 male teachers. One was the girls' soccer coach.
Lovely.
Oh.
He pantsed a girl on the field during a practice.
Was it the girl he was sleeping with?
Actually, no.
Okay, that's just creepy then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gross. Okay, sorry. Moving on. I did this runoff was my fault. I apologize. So, the main focus of this book is cancer. But she doesn't directly talk about this, but cancer causes not just financial, but it causes a massive trauma on family. Financial, emotional, like, can you give us a decent download of this, Katie? Like, what you've seen, is it compared to what's going on in the book? Is it worse?
Oh, yeah. So, it's comparable. So there have been studies published that the trauma that, like the mental trauma that a person is diagnosed with when they hear you have cancer their stress levels are the highest. It's if somebody dies. Like, they have to go through those processes. So if you have this person who is going through all these things, these treatments, these meds, and they're already got a shaky foundation in their support people, it will implode. And if you have, another person, if your support person has health issues too, we see cancer in the elderly is devastating because their support person can't care for them, or if they're the caregiver for that other person and now they're having to care for themselves, that's huge. The financial impact of cancer care, especially in the United States, is atrocious. It is one of its financial toxicities. Like, it's horrible.
Yeah.
So
they give an example in the book where the insurance denies a claim to try something else that the doctor has very clearly said wouldn't work, and then the insurance would cover it, but by that time there's a chance that Kate could be dead.
So about between 5 and 7 times a week, I have to contact insurance companies and advocate for CT scans, treatment regimens, medication changes, full doses of medications, changing regimens completely because the patient shows the early signs of progression where the insurance company is saying, no, you need to try it for a couple more months, where in a couple more months they're going to be full of cancer and we're going to be shit out of luck. So that's a very, very truth.
It happens to me.
Wow.
I've been told, I've been denied. I was denied when we first started my infusions for my RA because of how far it's progressed in the short time I've had it. They told me, my husband's insurance told us I had to try 3 different injectables first. The 3 injectables they told us I had to try, I had already done 2 of them. And the 3 that they wanted me to do were the same thing. So my doctor then had to petition for it. And by the time they approved it, I had been off meds for almost 2 months. And I was in bed because I couldn't move because of a massive flare because I was off medications.
Right.
Yep.
And it's just, I can't imagine fighting a ticking time bomb like cancer. If I'm struggling this much with an autoimmune disease, I can't imagine the struggle and the battle with cancer, something that has an expiration date, which is devastating, right?
Yeah. And I think one thing that I get super frustrated with is a lot of times we're not talking to oncologists. We're talking to a sports med guy who is going down a list and saying, oh, it doesn't meet this checkbox, so I'm going to click deny. When I'm like, this is somebody's life.
They didn't hurt their knee, man.
Yeah. Their football career probably going to be on hold from their raging cancer, but, here we are. Yeah. So.
Nice.
Okay, so I personally have a lot of issues with Sarah. A lot.
Same.
We've talked about this via text. So, do you guys think she's a good mother, and do you think her actions are justified?
No and no. When she leaves Anna,
the newborn baby,
not even hours old,
that
go to
pissed me off so much.
Done. Yeah, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
And then,
okay, but on the other side of that, she had a newborn, and then her daughter was going to have a medical procedure. So
and her husband,
her healthy daughter.
Okay.
And then when they went and got, they did the bone marrow extract of Anna, and Anna was in extreme pain, and Brian goes down to Sarah. Anna is asking for you. She needs you. And she's like, but I'm with Kate. Like, this is a solid explanation. And Brian's like, your other daughter needs you. She doesn't want me. She doesn't want the nurses. She wants you. She wants her mom. And she was going to.
Could have traded.
And she wasn't willing to. She was literally ignoring the child in pain over the child who was sleeping.
I think what it boils down to is with Sarah, I'm not sure she would have ever had another kid had this doctor not said, future children could be donors.
Yep. Yeah.
Whereas I think Brian, he would have just kept having babies because to me,
Brian has a big heart.
To me, the other part of this that I really like is we get to see a man who is more motherly. I know that's not the word that I want to use, but we tend to think. Yes, there we go. We tend to.
I know a word. Yay me!
It's my proudest moment for you, Molly. I feel like we tend to think of moms as like the caregivers and things like that. And in our house, it's not really like that. My husband is a stay-at-home dad, whereas I'm like, yeah, you can give the kids a bath, and I'm going to go read a book. And I
won't lie. I'm a warm person to my kids, but my husband is their comfort parent.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when they're sick, they want me. And Sam, proud moment for me. Sam told Tom yesterday, I love you, Daddy, but I love Mommy more, which shouldn't make me happy, but freaking does.
I'm the girl's problem solver. Mm-hmm. They know if it's an air quote emergency. Let's not lie. Children have a lot of emergencies, right? Even when they're not emergencies. But when it's an air quote emergency, I'm the problem solver. I'm going to have an answer. I'm going to fix the situation. But when their emotions are in check, they know very well I'm going to be like, is this really necessary? Are we overreacting? Well, Daddy's going to be like, come here. Let me give you a hug. And I'm okay with that. I think that there's a balance in most relationships like that for parents at times.
You have to have a parent who's the good at making sense of things, and you also have to have the parent who's good at making the nonsense. Like, it's about balance. Like, in our house, Tom is both the disciplinarian and the one that's like handling the crap, whereas I'm the one that where I'm the one that handles all the hugs and snuggles, and
new word, boom.
And also, I'm also the one that keeps our schedule. So somehow it's a good balance. But I actually just thought of something because Katie brought up the way that the attorneys that she's known that have been like, you have to have your things together. I think it's worth noting that Sarah was an attorney before becoming a stay-at-home mom. Right. I do think that shapes her personality. And I think, I feel like she sees this is the problem and this is the solution, and it's not people to her, which is a problem because she's their mom, but it's not people to her. It's, I'm going to find the solution. I'm going to make it better. It doesn't matter what happens. I have to win the case.
What's the quote that Kate says to her, though? You can't fix it, Mom.
Yes. She says, I've got it in my notes. Where'd it go? You can't fix it every time, Mom. How come I know that and you don't?
Yep. Preach, girl. If your 16-year-old can call you on your bullshit, maybe you should take a look in the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I have to just say, I wouldn't be willing to give up either. Not at the expense of my other kid. But I wouldn't want to stop fighting for my kid either.
No, so there's a difference between fighting for your kid and knowing when enough is enough. Mm-hmm. Like, you can be the one that raises 15 kinds of hell, and you can be that mama bear, and you can do that. But at no point in any time do we hear Sarah ask Kate, are you done?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you want to keep doing it?
And clearly Kate's afraid to tell her.
Yeah.
Because she
wants to kill herself.
She tries to kill herself, and she convinces Anna to, she doesn't convince Anna to go to trial. What she does is try to kill herself, and Anna's like, this is the only way I can make them stop. And they're not going to stop because they're not going to listen to me or Kate.
And I don't genuinely feel that Sarah's behavior and the fact that she always just pulls from Anna, she wouldn't give two shits what Kate had to say. It wasn't Kate. It was Kate's illness. Right. And that was the problem that she couldn't fix and she couldn't control. So it wasn't about her daughter. It was about her daughter's illness.
Which she isn't even, like, Kate's not even a person anymore to Sarah, right? Mm-hmm. It's Kate's illness. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if we followed this book into Kate's adulthood, I think we would see a detachment of Sarah from Kate.
For sure.
I don't think Sarah knows how to be a mom to Kate, healthy Kate. I think she only knows how to be, you know what I mean? And
the other two kids she has are both healthy, and she doesn't mom either one of them.
Right.
Because she's detached from that situation.
Right.
So on that note, do you guys think Brian's a good parent?
I think he needs to stand up to his wife more.
I think he needs to grow a
But
set.
Tom, when you're listening to this, you better not stand up to me. Just do what I say.
And so in our marriage, we have the card. So we have the husband card, we have the wife card, we have the mom card, we have the dad card.
Mm-hmm.
You have to declare that you're pulling that card before you pull that card. Stephen has pulled it one time in our almost 20 marriage. Just the husband card. Like, he's never pulled the dad card. And I feel like if Brian would have said, I'm pulling the dad card, maybe she would have stopped and actually listened and realized, like, these are his kids too. Yeah. And they're important to him too. So
I like their relationship. Like, I feel like they love each other.
Very much so.
And I don't like the way that the movie portrays their relationship, but I think they have a good relationship, but I don't think he knows how to tell her. I mean, he finally does. He does tell her that he believes Anna's right, that they should stop. But
he doesn't know how to say no, and I bet that's been their whole life. I think pre-Kate's illness, he doesn't know how to say no.
Yeah. He does say no to her with the arsenic. Was that the treatment? Yeah. He doesn't want to do that. He's like, no, we should take her home, let her die there, which it ends up working. So, I mean, I guess, do you really want to be the person that said, I don't think we should do this, and then your kid survives it? I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, I jokingly say that Tom shouldn't challenge me, but I think that's one of the best things about our marriage is that we do challenge each other when we don't agree. And we have very different personalities. So I feel like if we were dealing with some trauma, which, you know, whatever that may be, I think we would both have our own point of view and we'd have to work together to come up with a plan. And I don't think that Sarah and Brian do that. It's Sarah's plan, and Brian needs to get on board. Like, I would really like to have seen that conversation. I would really like to see that conversation where they actually talked about doing IVF to make Anna. Because this is probably not something Brian had ever thought about doing IVF. They have 2 children naturally. We have no indication that they had any issues.
Right. Yeah. They probably didn't. She was just like, this is how we're going to do it because we need to save Kate, and that's that. But
here's your cup. Go fill it with sperm.
I'm in that sense, I'm Sarah. I run this ship. But that's, and Matthew, I know you're going to watch this. You are an indecisive human being. And the reason you married me is because I make decisive decisions that make things run smoothly. Now, does it come off as a bully if you're on the outside? Absolutely.
Yeah, but nobody else is in your marriage. Like, it doesn't matter what other people have to say about it because they're not in your marriage.
Right. But I do what's best for the family, 100%. Do I take his opinion into effect? Yes. But does it take Matthew? Sometimes we need a split-second decision. Mm-hmm. And I know my husband well enough. We've been together 15 years. I know my husband well enough to know what he's going to eventually come to. So why not let me just make this decision right here in this moment, and he'll eventually get on board.
Yeah.
It makes me a monster, I know.
I don't make decisions very easily. I mean, I can, but I feel like having Tom to bounce ideas off of is what helps me.
Right.
But I would, okay, so if we're asking the question, is Brian a good parent? I think you could make an argument that he is both good and bad. He's standing up for Anna. He removes her from the house so that she can have some time to, like, do her thing. He does tell Sarah he thinks Anna's right. He tries to withdraw treatment for Kate when it's very clear that, like, her body does not want to do this anymore. She does not want to do this anymore. And he also, when it's found out that Jesse's committing arson, he doesn't turn him in, and instead he gives him what he really needs, which is just someone to love him
and acknowledge him
and acknowledge that he's worthy. But counterpoint, he goes along with making Anna in order to save Kate. He goes along with the treatments that put Anna's life at risk, or at least put her body in pain. He doesn't turn in his kid who's an arsonist. Like, you can make an argument on both sides of that. Like, your kid's an arsonist and you're a firefighter. You can make both sides of
interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, y'all hear that?
What?
Okay, never mind. It was a thud upstairs. Piper fell out of her bed. I'm certain of it. Sorry. Moving on.
My dogs are like snorting like crazy. I can't believe you guys can't hear them. They're like over here. So I super hope that's not coming through.
So,
yeah.
Before we talk about Kate, I want to talk about the secondary story in this. Campbell and Julia.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Can I finish my story?
Don't talk to our guests like that. Be nice.
Sorry.
Sorry. Do you think it is relevant or necessary to the storyline?
It is lazy writing. It is unnecessary.
I feel like she was like, you know what the story's missing? A love story. And so she's like, you know what? We could have made Julia a advocate for Anna and been done with it. And you know, that point of view was important, I feel like. Yeah. And I think Campbell's relationship with Anna was important, but did they need to be in a physical relationship? Did they need to know each other from the past? Absolutely not. I think she was just struggling to figure out how to explain Campbell's illness, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna bring Julia into this shit show.
I think you can make an argument for the connection being an ethical issue, because this story does a lot with ethics.
Okay.
Which I have a question for Katie, but I'll finish my statement first.
Of course.
It is an ethical issue. They sleep together, and she is the advocate for his client. There's absolutely no way, if you were assigned this case and you had a prior relationship with this attorney, there's absolutely no reason you should take it. Immediately, you need to disclose, I have a personal relationship in the past with this person, and I cannot accept this case. And there's no judge in the world that's going to make you do it, because they're going to see this could cause a mistrial, and this would be an ethical issue in my courtroom, and I don't want to deal with that. So no, there's no reason for them to have that relationship.
And it's already a murky case. You know what I mean? Letting a 13-year-old decide what they do with their own life.
Yeah.
Okay, but you have a question for Katie.
It's a medical ethics question, so it's not really related to this. Do you want to answer what you all think about their relationship first, and I can save my question?
Save. Katie, how do you feel about this relationship?
I thought it was dumb. I actually flipped, when you do that read and try to find the quick part? Yeah, that was like the whole boat scene. I was like, I don't care. Yeah. I don't care. I liked it.
A sex scene was not necessary in this book, for sure.
No, not at all. Nope. I liked the relationship that Julia had with her twin, though, because that's giving her perspective for Anna and Kate. What would she do to her sister? I did like that relationship, but the Campbell and Julia high school, I don't care. Yeah.
And because they're twins, would she have been a genetic match because they're twins?
Not necessarily. If they were identical ones, if the egg would have... Well, it did say they were identical because one had pink hair. So, they would have the same alleles. So, they would be matches. Yeah.
So, I feel like...
Say that again. Same what?
Alleles.
What the frack is that?
It's when you... so, there's 6 alleles that you have to be identical genetic donors. Yeah, so it's just looking in your blood to see kind of what you are. So that's why Jessie wasn't an exact allele match for Anna or for Kate. And Kate,
biography
it's
was
just
like
the
my worst
genes line up. It's just the line the way the genes line up. Babe? Yeah.
Biology was like my worst science. Like when we had to do like the square and you should
that's
have
what it is.
brown eyes.
Yep.
I have a blue-eyed child, and my husband has brown eyes. I also have a blonde child, and neither of us. Well, I guess
Yep.
I sort of am a blonde, but what the heck? I don't get it.
Yep.
We've covered this. You have no eyebrows. It makes you partially blonde.
You just leave my
Your
eyebrows
eyebrows do look
alone.
really good today, too, by the way.
Look, this is how I prep for podcasts. Like 45 minutes before we have to log in, I'm like, I better go put some makeup on because my eyes got to be on point. I got to make that eye look.
Word.
That's my prep.
Because what you're gonna see the bags.
Yeah, well, that's true too. I definitely hide those. So, ethics question, because they talk about the medical ethics board, which has met to discuss Kate's case, but not Anna's.
Correct.
But Anna, I mean, she is a patient. As a donor,
Right.
she would be a patient. So they mentioned that they're kind of making this up as they go because this is a new science. But in today's world, if you have a child who's a donor, would they also get an ethics committee?
A constant donor. Let's rephrase it to say constant donor, because
So the only time ethics are actually pulled in is if somebody consults them. So if the parents don't find anything wrong with it, if all of the nursing staff finds that everything's going kosher, if all the physicians, the therapists, the nutritionists, the psychologists, if all those people are saying, no, we're okay, ethics doesn't get involved. It takes one person of any discipline.
It couldn't be Anna?
Discipline. And it could have been, the patient can say, hey, I don't, definitely, but it just takes
her
one
mom kept asking for her. So this is how we get the shit show like Gypsy Rose.
Yes, exactly.
That's a whole other thing.
Oh my god, I love that. Love it. So good. Yeah.
Love it. Oh, yes, but that's what I'm saying though. Like this Munchausen by proxy bullshit.
It's real.
This is how we get that kind of thing. I mean,
okay, but I just don't understand if nurses had to hold her down to take the blood out of her, why they wouldn't challenge the ethics of it. Like,
because part of it is she a normal 5-year-old?
Okay, because a 5-year-old probably would squirm about that.
Because that's a normal reaction for a 5-year-old. Like, you don't get to draw blood on a 5-year-old without having them scream and holler and move around.
Okay, but she had to have it done.
Coax Livia into it.
Yeah. She had to have it done 3 or 4 times. Like, I feel like at that point, you want to be like, maybe we need to talk about this. Because clearly the parents are not working in the best interest of both of their kids.
And you hope that you do have a nurse or a phlebe or anybody.
Is that a phlebotomist?
Phlebotomist?
Yeah.
Okay, we're both like, wait, question.
You hope you have one person who says, I'm not okay with this and speaks up, but the Swiss cheese effect where sometimes the holes just line up.
Mm-hmm. Now,
things happen. So.
Jesse mentions that he is donating platelets. Would he still be a match to do that?
So platelets, you don't have to be type specific. So if you have A blood or B blood or O blood, it doesn't factor into it. So the way
I've actually never given blood, which I know is
unfortunate.
Well,
I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, it was not advised that I do that because of my weird sugar whatever. I don't actually have diabetes, but whatever.
Pre-diabetic or whatever they call it.
Well, I am that now, but like when I was younger, my sugar would like crash. Probably because of my PCOS, it would crash. And so my doctor just told me not to, and then I've just never researched if I should do it or not. That's not a time for now. That's a time for Katie and I to text. Should I donate blood?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay. I really hate needles a lot.
It's a big ass needle too. And like that's the thing too.
Girl,
like,
you have tattoos.
Yeah, they don't hurt.
It's a completely different needle. That's a completely different needle. So the needle that they use to donate blood is like 6 times as big as that. No, that's a totally different needle. Totally different.
I mean, after being pregnant with Sam, where I had to give myself 10 shots in the belly every day, you'd think I would be like comfortable with needles, but those needles were tiny. Like,
yeah.
I will always opt out of the self-injections. Anytime they go, this is a self-injectable, is there another option? Is always my first, like, because I ain't stabbing myself with a needle. Hard pass. So, okay, moving on. The growth of Campbell and Anna's relationship. How do you think this shapes the storyline?
It doesn't.
You don't think so? You don't think Campbell grows or Anna grows at all with their relationship?
Oh, I thought you said Julia. I'm sorry. Can you repeat your question?
We're talking about Molly stabbing herself, and then she just shoots right into things. Okay. The growth of Campbell and Anna's relationship. How do you think it shapes the storyline?
Oh, yeah. It does.
Yeah, it shapes the storyline. Moving on.
I think it shaped both of them. I think through Anna seeing Campbell's weaknesses in the trial, like she came to her own, you know what I mean? Like I think she realizes like, hey, he's a person too. And I think when he like is interrogating the witnesses and stuff, I feel like she's like, oh my God, like he's the man, like he got this. And I think like she finally realizes that he does have her back. And
right.
You know, yeah, he's doing this pro bono, and he says in the beginning, oh, it's going to be like this PR, and I'm going to do all this stuff pro bono. But then, you know, it changes, and it's, you know, when he says, there's a kidney donor, I'm her medical power of attorney, I think that's like the clinch to it that like he did honestly have her back in all this.
Yeah.
To the very
he
end.
Didn't know all the other too. Like he just knew Anna, and he was the only one that just knew Anna and just had Anna.
Anna doesn't have that in her life.
Nope.
Where it's just her. There is and I think that is why Campbell and her relationship so important in the storyline. There is one person for once in her life that is just looking out after her.
Yeah.
And let's not lie, that has never happened.
Right.
Yep.
I do think, and maybe this is just like me being weird, but I do think it was odd that the judge said that Campbell should be her power of attorney for her medical things, because I think, like, how is she going to pay him? Like, is he going to continue doing pro bono work for the rest of her life? Like,
I think the reason the judge did this, now this is just me, we'll call it headcanon because I don't know what else to call it. My headcanon thought process is the judge sees that Campbell is a kindred spirit to Anna. He sees that he's doing this. He's not doing press. Let's not lie. Campbell's not doing an assload of press. He's not promoting this. He's not trying to make a buck off of it by doing interviews. He is literally focused on Anna. And he doesn't even force Anna to get on the stand till he absolutely freaking has to. The judge knows that Campbell is going to be looking out for Anna.
I just think that it probably would have made more sense for it to be a proxy, someone like Julia, even though I don't think Julia could have made the decision.
But Julia works for the state, right? Campbell is an independent person.
No, but there are plenty of proxies. I mean, the whole Britney Spears thing, that's what's happening. Like, you have to be certified with the state to be someone's proxy like that. So, so to me, that made more sense. But I think, like, the relationship-wise, that was, like, smart writing. Like, okay, now they're connected in that way. And then, as we've said from the beginning, we were going to get into spoilers, and Katie started talking about this, but they get into a car accident. They win the trial, right? They win the trial, and I would not put my child in a car with somebody that just had a seizure. Like, that feels like a bad idea. But
word, paramedic, firefighter, hello,
right. I don't think that he was at fault. They keep talking about the rain, and there was clearly a car accident at an intersection, and it was probably related to the weather, but whatever. But Anna dies. Right. And this is what the movie changes this, and that's infuriating to me because I felt like that
prepared for that mentally.
Right. That was such a smart and unexpected ending. And that's one of the things I love about Jodi Picoult. She does that in every one of her books. There's always a twist that I'm like, oh, that was really good. But
you weren't expecting it, right? You're not expecting Anna to die.
And Campbell making the decision to still donate Anna's kidney because she's now brain dead. And so
because that's what Anna would do. Let's not lie.
I actually think Anna wanted the right to make the decision herself. But I think she still wanted I think they were going to the hospital to do it anyway. Like, I think she was going there to donate the kidney to her sister.
Because
like,
she loves her big sister more than life itself.
Absolutely. And she didn't want her sister to die. She didn't want to not be the donor. She just wanted to be the person that could make the decision and make the decision her sister wanted her to make because her parents were not going to do that.
Right. So, I actually have a note about the car accident. Do you think Jodi Piccolo? Piccolo. No, Piccolo. Nope. Okay. Anyways, the author. Do you think it is karmic retribution she is putting on this family for treating Anna so shitty her whole short life? Do you you know what? I'm going to play God here. You guys want to treat her like a bag of frickin' blood. You want to treat her like a donor. Look now. Look at the chaos you've created. You've done this to yourself.
I mean, in the end, that's all she was. She was a vessel. She was a donor. But I feel like Sarah has to live with that.
Good. Fuck that bitch.
Sarah has to live with that.
I mean, karma plays you hard. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But can we talk about the fact that you literally cannot declare somebody brain dead that quick?
I thought so. Doesn't it take 24 hours?
Red medical flag. Yeah. Also, that don't happen that quick. Yeah.
Also, they turn the machine off, which you can't do because then she's dying, you have to take her into
literally. And isn't there like a gazillion pages they have to sign to do any of this? Yeah. Like, there's so much paperwork, right?
And isn't it like 24 hours or something?
It can be like up to 48 hours. Like, it's a process.
Because they have to do neuro tests, right?
Yes, and CT scans and all kinds of things. And then to actually like prepare the body for donation, because here's the thing: if he's going to donate a kidney to her sister, she's also going to donate her lungs to somebody else, her pancreas. Like, you don't just go in for one organ when you're an organ donor.
They do it all at once, right?
So they take all the different parts out and then take the heart out.
So this is me pulling Grace. They have to call UNOS, right? And they got to see who's on the list and the whole shit show, right?
But the hospital doesn't do it. Organ procurement agencies do that. So in the state of Ohio, in every state, there's organ procurement organizations. So there are people who work, like UNOS is just a nationwide database. Okay. So you have teams that come to hospitals.
So they have to call somebody. It's not somebody that works in the hospital?
No. Even major medical, like even at OSU, Riverside, Grant, which are the big level 1 hospitals in Columbus, like you still call in this outside agency to do an organ procurement. Right. So it's not just, you can flip the switch and we're going to take her kidney. So
do you have sorry. And they actually turn off like her ventilator and stuff, like Brian does that. Well, then like her organs are going to start dying. Like they wouldn't do that. Like you have to wait.
And I love my paramedic husband. He is great. The man is brilliant. He don't know how to turn off a vent. Like it's literally not just flipping a switch. That's a safeguard. It's a multi-step process to turn off a vent, so you can't unplug it. Like,
you mean it's just not a button?
No, and I was like, I'm calling bullshit on this part. Yeah.
So my question is, I guess, how obviously they have to move them to ICU, right? And it's a whole process. What kind of window is the people that run the donation program, what kind of window do they have to show up at the hospital, start their version of the process?
So usually within about 2 to 3 hours after brain death has... So my experience with it,
please run us through it.
Yeah. So you kind of know, like, from the point of injury, like if you have somebody come in with a really bad TBI, you know, like, things are not looking good. But then, you have this time where you think, are we getting there? So then when you first have that suspicion, you notify the organ procurement and they'll walk you through, are these things being done? And then, once brain death is declared, then the hospital staff does not get consent for this. The outside agency comes in because you don't want any conflict of interest from a surgeon, from a neurosurgeon, from a transplant surgeon. it's conflict of interest if these people who are going to use these organs are asking for them. So you have this outside agency come in, and then it depends
attached to their patients, right?
Exactly. Yep. And if you have, transplant surgeons work on both sides. So you have them, they take the organs and they put the organs back in. So they have to be able to have that where they're not thinking, oh, I want to use this kidney on Sam that I've been trying to get a kidney for a couple weeks ago. That's why UNOS is in place, because it's organ sharing. So a lot of the organs are stable, and you can actually FedEx a kidney. It doesn't have to be carried.
So no kilos transporting it.
No,
okay,
so
people are walking around with three
heart
kidneys.
And lungs only.
You can FedEx a kidney. Wait, so what about heart in a box? What about
those have to be carried. Yeah. There's some organs.
So in Gray's, so in Gray's they have they take the heart out and they put it in this thing and it pumps the heart and they set it on its merry. Is that a real thing?
So it doesn't have to be continually vascularized, but anytime a patient is on the organ donation list, they have to live within 2 hours of the donation of the hospital. So if you get that call, we have a heart for you, you have to be there in 2 hours, because that's pretty much, they know by the time you get there, we get you in surgery, we get you prepped, we get your bad organ out, then it'll be time to go and put your new organ in. So there's rules for recipients too.
FedEx can get an organ to somebody in 2 hours, or is that just the heart needs to be there in 2 hours?
Just the heart. Yeah, just the heart and lungs.
So people are walking around with 3 kidneys, and FedEx is transporting Okay.
Yeah. Leave on the dock. I'll be there in the morning.
Kidney, leave a comment.
I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, before April fades. So at the end of the book, we finally get Katie's POV, but it's 2010. We've fast forwarded into the future. Why do you think the author felt this was important to end the book this way? Or do you think the author?
I didn't it was nice, and I don't know if it's just because I don't know the logistics of writing and all the.
That's okay. You save lives.
Yeah, but I mean, I literally was like, okay, cool, but why didn't we hear about her 12 chapters ago? Why didn't we get her take on her relationship with Taylor? Why do we care after the fact?
I think it was more about the surprise of it. Now that we know that Anna dies and that Kate actually lived, this procedure of her getting a kidney actually did in fact save her life, even though all the doctors were saying we're past that, she's not going to survive. But it also gives you that Anna was an unreliable narrator. Now we know why she was keeping that secret, and why. And we also get to see that in the end, Anna did save her sister. She did. Yeah. It also made me be okay, but I think the point of this book was that Anna was being really brave and speaking up for herself. And I actually, I don't like that. I don't want somebody to die, but I don't really like that Kate lived, because Anna fought so hard to give Kate what she wanted, which was to just let go.
Die. Yeah.
Right. And now she's fine. And it also makes Anna seem like she was really selfish and that she did it more for herself, because it actually did end up saving her sister's lives, as opposed to the fact that all the doctors kept saying, this isn't going to work anymore. She's
So this leads
in Grey's Anatomy, they call it the circle of death. I don't really know if that's a real thing.
So this leads into the whole air quote medical miracle, right? They're saying Kate is so near death that this kidney's not going to work, and then she gets a kidney and she bounces back. How realistic is that, Katie?
Relatively.
Really?
Yeah. So organ failure, when you have multi-system organ failure, that's where it's worse. But usually the cure rates for APL are really high, really, really high. And I kind of flipped back through it because I couldn't tell after she got the arsenic, then she was okay, right? Like that's kind of the timeline that I wrote down. And then it started, she started having graft versus host disease, which that can lead to kidney failure. The graft versus host disease is not a reoccurrence of her cancer though. So her
what
cancer
is graft
was
versus
cured.
host for us that don't know what the hell that is?
Basically your body, it's attacking the organ.
Okay.
So her organ is blood. Yeah. So, and that's a complication too. Like if you've had graft versus host post stem cell, I think that negates you for a kidney transplant because you're at higher levels than for graft versus host of your new kidney. So like if your body's already attacked one organ, it probably would attack the other. So I didn't have time to like delve that far into it, but it doesn't make sense. Like your body already attacked this new organ that we gave you in the shape of blood. Why are we going to give you another organ? So,
well, I feel like her body was just tired at that point though too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she had been fighting cancer for
14 years.
14 years.
14 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be enough for anybody's body, right? To just give out.
And
I mean,
fuck this shit.
She beat cancer, but she still dies because her body couldn't handle it anymore.
And that happens a lot because these have such high cure rates. You bring out cannons to kill mosquitoes because we can kill the mosquito. Because if you don't kill a mosquito, then you have a gajillion mosquitoes. So that's why we bring cannons to it. But the flip side of that is we are bringing cannons to kill mosquitoes, and it causes problems. You know, daunorubicin and cytarabine are some of the hardest hitting chemos that we have across the board.
And chemo is poison.
Chemo is poison. And you know, one of the hallmarks of cancer is that a cell can divide very fast. It doesn't understand it has to not divide that fast, and it doesn't understand that it has to die. So you have cells in your body that turn over and make very fast too. That's the chemo doesn't know, hey, that's a good cell, leave that alone and go after the cancer cells. It takes down good and bad. So that's
it just
why
knocks everything out, right?
Yeah. So, you know, when you're giving these ass-kicking chemos to kill the cancer, you're killing the good stuff too.
So it's a wildfire.
It is. It's a controlled wildfire. Yep.
Well, I know that I said that Sarah would have to live with Anna's death, but I also feel like, because I don't like the way that she handled any of this, that there might be a little bit of Sarah that's like, well, I was right. Kate lived.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
for sure.
I was right. We should have kept going. Which is the other reason. That's the other reason I don't like it, because you can't relish in the death of one of your daughters because you were right.
No. Oh, no. I hope that woman mourns that child forever. I wish a life of sadness on her, and the way she treated Anna, I hope her heart is broken for the rest of her life.
It ain't gonna be.
It makes me a monster. Yeah. I know.
No, I was just going to say, and this is one of the reasons that I love you, Molly, because we talk about fictional people like they're real, and we want them to be punished for the bad things they do in their life.
So, to end up, let's talk about movie versus book. I have 4 points. I know. I have 4 points I want to cover. How do you feel about casting? How do you feel about the change of the ending? The change of the location? And the one that really got to me, the changing of the gender of the judge. I know it's little, but it pisses me off because I like continuity. So...
Yeah, but that's just because when you can get Joan Cusack, you get Joan Cusack.
You do. You get Joan Cusack.
On so the line,
we'll work you in. Yeah.
But I feel
make it happen.
I feel like the point of having a male judge in this situation is he was heartbroken over his child dying, and they're trying to show how hard male judges can have soft points, right? Putting a woman in that position, we're naturally soft people, right? You're not making that person softer with a dead
I don't know
child.
that I would ever describe Joan Cusack as a soft person.
16 Candles.
Oh, such a good movie.
Oh, well, okay.
She's so...
I'll give you that. That's not what she normally does, though.
No. Okay, so let's start with casting. What do you guys think?
I love the girl that played Anna. I've loved her in everything. She was amazing in Little Miss Sunshine. I love that. I love her.
Abigail Breslin.
Yes.
I'm going to put the link to the IMDb page for Sister's Keeper in the pod notes for everyone so they can know who we're talking about.
On an interesting related note, I mean, she's perfect because at the time that this movie was filmed, you have to pick a precocious, like, tween. They made Anna younger because Abigail Breslin actually wasn't old enough to be 13, so I think they made her 11.
But then they aged her at the end, like, to being an adult real fast.
But interesting fact about this, because I like these things, since I liked this book so much, I followed the casting, and oh my gosh, I just blanked on who was supposed to play them. It was supposed to be, oh geez, who plays Jane in the Twilight Saga?
I don't know. Jane in Twilight?
Hang on.
Stand by.
I got it. I'm pulling it up right now. It was supposed
Jane
to be
in Twilight.
Oh, Dakota Fanning. Dakota Fanning. Okay.
Oh, yes. It was actually supposed to be Dakota Fanning was supposed to play Kate, and her little sister was supposed to play Anna.
Oh, I love them. Yeah,
and a really interesting combo.
She didn't want to shave her head.
Oh, rude.
So they wouldn't let her wear. They wouldn't let her wear a bald cap. They were requiring her to shave her head, and she didn't want to do it. So
they didn't make Cameron Diaz shave her head.
Okay, let me just say, Cameron Diaz was probably the worst choice ever for Sarah. She's What in the world?
Really?
What?
I think she played bitchy pretty well.
You have somebody less maternal. Oh.
No.
She's married. Like, she puts the stuff in her hair. Like,
Sarah's not maternal.
Yeah.
Sarah's not a maternal parent.
No, but she is so...
Well, she is to Kate. I mean, I don't know.
Kate's illness.
She's not who I would have picked at all. I think Alec Baldwin makes a good lawyer, but he was older than Campbell.
Yeah.
In my head.
It was a good fit, I think.
I feel like he would have been a good Campbell if it were filmed like 10 years earlier or something.
I think the actor that played Jesse was too young. Wasn't he supposed to be older?
Yeah. Well, he was supposed to be 18 and in college, and in the movie, they changed Kate to being the oldest child instead of the middle child.
Which fucking up the storyline bugs me to no end.
Annoying. It's really annoying.
Changing of the ending, I mean, I get why they did it. They're giving the viewer the ending they're expecting with this whole system, right? But I think you miss the point of this book and all of her writing if you don't have the twist ending.
I feel like they probably screen tested it and everybody was like, well, that's annoying. Why would they do that? That's not how the script is.
God blessed book.
But I understand when you buy the rights to somebody's book, like you now like own that book, but I prefer movie adaptations, that the writer of the book is involved in the writing of the screenplay.
And I promise you, anything I ever write will always have my interpretation on it. I am too much of a stickler for ideals. Nope. Okay, so the one.
Okay, but also you need to promise me that I get to consult on casting.
I mean, if you and I aren't having a margarita and talking about casting, it's not happening. So another thing that bugged me, and then I want to hear what you all think, they changed the whole location. They went from this being on the East Coast up in Providence, Rhode Island to LA. And I
don't think it was LA, but it was California. Was it LA?
It was LA. It was LA because Jesse's on the Sunset Strip, where all the hookers are walking, and then they show Santa Monica.
I just thought that was
Pier.
California.
And then they were showing Santa Monica Pier, and I feel like it was an unnecessary storyline change.
Yeah. Well, I think what made it interesting having it in Rhode Island was that it was definitely big news. I think putting this in a city like New York or LA is tempting because that's where all the high-profile cases are. But putting it in Little Providence, Rhode Island, where your parents she was the first designer baby in the state.
Right, and like there was news about it, and they had interviews and all that jazz.
And it also made it possible for the whole Julia and Campbell thing because the state was so small, but whatever. But I think moving it to California, they did that. And I don't know the specific laws of California. I don't know that Californians know the specific laws.
Next week, we have a legal expert on. No,
but they make a point in the movie to talk about Anna not being old enough to be medically emancipated. And I don't know if they made that decision because the movie came out, I want to say 10 years after the book. So that might be why they were doing it.
I'll put it in the notes. It'll be part of the IMDb page.
I think it was
2012, 2014, something like that the movie came out.
The book came out in 2004. So
right. 10 years later.
10 years. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe they just thought people wouldn't be as taken aback by it by then because a lot had changed in 10 years. Also, Judge does not wear a service dog
vest. My God.
I almost said smock.
Teacher lingo.
Markers in your pockets on your smock.
Okay.
Wow. I should never call them anything other than a service dog smock.
Finish.
A smock.
Gosh. Now I'm picturing a little beret and he's got a whole thing going. Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway, but he's not wearing his vest, so he's not as
splatters on it.
Right.
Pollock style.
He's got a little brush in his mouth. He's walking around
I'll have it noted, besties, that I'm the one trying to rein April in. This never happens.
I'll have it noted, besties, that she has me filming way past my bedtime, so I am loopy. Anyway, he's not wearing his service vest, so then technically
he's in your smock. We're at that. That's it. We're done. To tie things up before we say goodnight, Katie, give us your biggest pet peeves with this book when it comes medically. Break us down. What do you think? What she really got wrong?
You can say the firefighter.
The firefighter. Children are not allowed to bunk at the firehouse. It's for staff only. Children are absolutely, on the history of nowhere, allowed to go on a call, let alone in turnout gear.
Even Doogie
those
Howser?
Were my biggest. I mean, even Doogie Howser, there's laws. And then the brain death part. She did do a pretty good job of. I did really like her explanation of APL. APL is a subset of a type of cancer. So how she described it is spot on. It was a very good description of what the cells do. So I do have to give her credit for that. But the firehouse scenes, and the brain death scenes just.
But you said
really
APL.
accurate.
Did you say that APL is something that has a higher
very high cure rate?
Okay, that's what I was looking for. I was gonna say higher mortality rate. That's what she says in the book, that it has a high mortality rate, but it's a high cure rate now.
It has a high cure rate now. Yeah, when it first came out, because we didn't have ATRA and arsenic and all that, but now it's usually ATRA, and stem cell transplants are usually used within so if they have a molecular relapse after first line of treatment, then they're queued up for a stem cell. A lot of cancers you have to go through multiple lines, but APL is one and you're queued for stem cell. So stem cell is a huge component of that. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah, it has a very high cure rate. Yeah.
But would it have a high cure rate back when she wrote the book?
Probably not. And pediatrics too. So a lot of times what happens,
different, right? Kid cancer is completely different.
Yeah.
And the book was published in 2004, but Kate was diagnosed in the 90s, so that would even have been further back.
Yeah. So the thing with any of leukemias is it's this this blood disorder. So a lot of times these patients will hemorrhage to death before they can get ahead of treatment. You know, you have internal bleeding, you have bleeding on the brain, things like that, because you have platelet dysfunction. They can't clot. So they, you know, that's what causes death more so much than the actual cancer. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
Yeah, and I sent you guys a link to
yes. Well, sorry, go ahead, finish.
Yeah. The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, that's like one of the best societies for leukemia. And then Alex's Lemonade Stand, it's a big supporter for all children, pediatric cancers. So.
Which I'm going to be putting all these things in the notes along with Katie's bio. Katie, we have appreciated you being here. Thank you for being our first expert on.
And I just want to say, I was fine with letting us go long because this was great, because this is like my two worlds colliding of Katie and Molly meeting, and they're so similar that like I just feel like I've made new friends for them.
No, Katie, you are so much smarter than me, babe.
Oh, she's smarter than me too.
Well, thanks, I think.
No, it's great, babe. It is so great. We thank you for being on. I'm sure we'll probably have you on again when we have something more like this. Besties, thanks for listening. Tell us what you thought of this episode in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
All the things. Share,
all the things.
Follow.
All right. April, love you, babe.
Wait, next week.
Oh, shit. Next week, y'all, we start Banned Book Month.
We're starting Banned Book Month a few days early, and we're going to be reading To Kill a Mockingbird, which is my absolute favorite book of all time, forever and ever. Love this book. Love it. It's perfect, and I don't care what Molly has to say. It's going to make for a really great episode, because April's just going to be like, nope, you're wrong.
Because she's assuming instantly that I'm just negative, which, I mean, she's not wrong. Let's not lie, besties.
I feel like I'm always geared up for battle when it comes to that book, so... Anyway, but that's what's coming up next week, and we will be doing banned books for the entire month of September, and I'll host all of those, and then we'll move into spooky books for October, where Molly will take over as host
spooky
because April does not do spooky. I had to buy Frankenstein and couldn't remember that it was a horror book, so yay.
Besties, we will see you guys next time.
Yes.
Check you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for being our first guest.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April and not those of anyone else. Today's book was My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. Your book besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins. Special thanks to our guest, Katie Alexander. Editing by Thomas Watkins, and music is Sleep Sweetly by Brigida. Don't forget to follow Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. If you would like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com.